Well. Me again. Same night in a row. And for once, we're like nearly the same head level. That's good. Makes me look less ugly, I suppose. Anyway, I'm just bored again because I always am. If you hear any pings, it's my computer in the background. I just have Discord open, so I was just talking to someone. They're probably the only person watching this video, so if you think I'm ignoring you, then like, my bad. Anyway, I think I'll yap about my father because, I don't know, I'm bored, I guess. I guess. My English is so fucking dog shit. I'm losing it. Might as well just grab the convo anyway. Just to keep myself occupied while I yap. Should really shave, shouldn't I? I'm looking great. Shaved the mustache this morning, but didn't have time to shave the beard, so might have to do that tomorrow morning, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, where should I begin? Well, 17 years old, being my father's son for all 17 years. My parents divorced at like 6, 7 years old when I was that age, so probably some form of mental stuff from that, I don't know. I don't like saying the word trauma because trauma sounds very severe and serious. And when I think of my life, I don't really think of serious stuff. I try to make myself very silly, just to, maybe downplay it all. Because at the end of the day, I don't like people thinking I'm a sad guy or I'm that serious. My dog's fucking at the door. I guess I can introduce you to her. Teddy. Oh, this is my dog. This is Teddy. She's a very good girl. She's a small one. Fun fact about her. When I first got her, I was going to call her Snowball. And then I was going to call her Dirty Snowball because when she was a puppy, she used to have brown spots in her hair. Now she's all white. Bless you, are you okay? Hey. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway, about my father. Well, not really about my father, but more about me, really, so far. Yeah, so my parents have been split for pretty much all my life. I only have a few memories of them being together, and one of them was them arguing, and me going, "Can we just go to the park? I'm bored." So I don't really have much memories of them together. I think they split up pretty peacefully as far as things go. Could be a lot worse. They still talk when they need something from each other, especially if it revolves around me. But yeah, I moved out with my father when I was like 7. I think, Jesus, that was 10 years ago. Fucking old now. So that would be 2015, I think. God, that sounds so weird, but about 2015, my father moved to a house in Furban, probably County Westmeath, I don't know. And yeah, he moved there, and I would go live with him for 2 days. I would go back to my mother's house for 3 days, then I'd go back to his house for 2 days, and so on, so on, so on. I'd just start with him on Monday, go to my mother's on Tuesday, return to my father's on Friday, back to my mom's on Sunday, you know. It's like that. It works, but sometimes I have to change the schedule, and that really upsets me because, you know, I don't really have plans per se, but when I start my day, I think about what I'm gonna do that day. I did just hit myself, didn't I? I think about what I'm gonna do that day. So, for example, I'll be on my computer pretty much all day, because I'm a loser. But I'll be on my computer all day. If I'm talking to someone, especially if it's like Coco friend or, you know, someone I'm close with, someone I like to yap to, I'll be like, I'll always want to be on the PC because that's how I type fastest. That's where my grammar is best. That's where I'm most comfortable. And just this room, it has my first weapon, aka my hobby. It has birthday cards, has all my creations from my school, from woodwork. Has interesting commodities too. If I was really bored, I could lift weight, but, you know, personally, I'm not too big on weightlifting because I'm pretty skinny. I'm pretty skinny. I'm kind of a twink, so I don't really bother. If I wanted to bother, I'd have to bulk up first because I'm way too skinny to be gaining muscle. I don't eat enough calories to support my body if I was to weigh more and burn more calories. I just couldn't support that. I'm already far too skinny as it is. Anyway. Yeah, I prefer to be here, but some days my father will maybe just ask my mom, can I have Alex for another day or two? Can I take him early today? And I'll always just groan, roll my eyes, and just be upset at that because we have a schedule. You can follow the schedule, you know, we don't have to change things. I'm fine with it just the way it is. I don't have to go to your house early. And it used to be a big problem, but ever since I complained to my mother about it, and she talked to my father, nowadays we usually don't have to change the schedule too much, which is good because a less moody me is a pretty okay me, I think. Comparatively, anyway. But back to my story, I guess. My life story. So my father moved to Verban. I would go to him and then to my mother on a schedule. That's how it's always been, and that's how it still is to this day. Until I start driving, it will always be like that. At the moment, my father moved out twice. Once he moved out for Ban to another town, which I'm not gonna say, and then from that town he moved basically next door to a different house in the same town, almost the exact same state as well. And that's where I live with my father. That's the house I think I know the address to. I'm not gonna tell you though, because I don't want to get doxxed today. Not like anyone's gonna dox me, but you know, privacy is important, I guess. Anyway, that's where my father plans to live the next however long he's got left. That's where he and his wife like to be. Although his wife has a house of her own, which is really, really weird. She owns a house in like Dublin, and he owns a house in a different place, and she also lives with him. It's very weird. Usually she lives with my father, but other times she just lives with herself. Or I don't really know why, but she does. I don't really mind her. She's not really a problem to me. She's nice. Her father recently passed away, so due to dementia, something about like he stopped eating, just forgot how to eat, which Although it doesn't really affect me because I didn't know the guy, I'm not that close with my stepmother. Stepmother, I guess. It's still, it's not great. Like, it's never great to have a death in the family, even if it's extended family. Like, feel bad for her. Like, she binge eating now, and I don't blame her for it. I do the exact same. I did the same not too long ago. That's how it is. Sometimes you just gotta find ways to cope. And along with that, my father's sister, the eldest sibling out of like 5, recently got diagnosed with cancer. I think it's leukemia, which I'm pretty sure is your bone marrow doesn't get produced or it isn't good. I don't really know. But that's been very stressful for everyone in the family except me because I don't know my family. I'm more of an outcast compared to everyone else in my family, you could say. Oh yeah, by the way, don't mind the sheep onesie. This is not for style, not for style, you could say. I'm just comfort right now because it's 12 p.m. What do you want me to do? I'm not dressing up just for a video. It's gonna be like 30 minutes long. Anyway, my father is, I'm sure he's a good man. I mean, I like to think he's a good man at heart. Flawed, but at the end of the day, my mother is flawed, but I think she's a great mom. I can't ask for a better mom. I'm flawed. You're flawed. Everyone's flawed, right? Like, I could ask for more, but, I'm just glad I have a father, at least, who's like him. It could be much worse. Where do I begin, though? I guess we could start on a topic which, if I was to hear someone talk about it, I'd go, oh, here we go. But, it is a part of me. I do have to talk about it to someone, and it does matter for the story. My Discord won't fucking shit up. It's not you, Lamine, by the way. It's a different person. But I was, for a lot of my life, about 5 to 4 years of my younger life, I went to a center, which at the time I didn't know what it was. It was actually a center to diagnose me with ASD, aka autism spectrum disorder. I think I also got diagnosed with OCD. I might have ADHD too. I'm just a bundle of joy over here, obviously. But yeah, I was diagnosed somewhere around 7, 8, 9 years old. My parents told me at a restaurant together, like they were split at the time, they met, they brought me along, said, you have autism. And 11-year-old me didn't give a fuck, like, honest to God. I was just like, okay, you had to tell me this, like, right now? Okay. Can, we go home? I did not care at all. And although I didn't care, it really does affect me. When I was younger, and I didn't know I had autism, and sometimes my parents would know, like, before they knew, and when they did know, they used to call my autism quirks habits. Say, if I touched something, I'd have to touch it again, harder, and sometimes I'll have to touch it again and again and again and again, and I just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Now, in recent times, I've actually been wondering if that's OCD and not autism, because it kind of sounds like OCD to me, but I just combine the two these days. I really do not care. It's easier to say I have autism and OCD, but then just describe my autism. I like to say I'm autistic with touch. I used to be a doubter that it affected me mentally, but I'm pretty sure it affects me, my psychology. because it's autism. It changes how your brain works. I see the world through a different lens to other people, which, like, it doesn't sound bad, especially if you see what I see. Like, I feel normal 90% of the time, but just remembering that I see the world differently than a normal person or someone that doesn't have autism or ASD, I should call it, the spectrum. It's a bit disheartening, you know. Like, I'll never see the world as someone else will see it. I don't see the beauty in things that other people see beauty in. You know, there is a movie called Mary and Max that goes over a man with Asperger's syndrome. And I hear the depiction of Asperger's, which is kind of a form of autism. I should specify that's what I'm diagnosed with. I have Asperger's, but that term was retired before I was diagnosed. So they had to say I have ASD. I would be Asperger's, but apparently they don't use that term anymore, which is kind of stupid. Nowadays, they call it high functioning autism and like low functioning autism. That's also going to change apparently because I don't know, it's woke. I don't know. Apparently, high function and low function is like too demeaning. I don't really care. I just care that people get diagnosed and get what they deserve to help them with it. As I kind of got. But that movie that I mentioned, Mary and Max, it's on my watch list, but the depiction of autism in it, or Asperger's, is meant to be very good. And from what I see, I agree, it looks very good. It reminds me of myself. When I see the world through how Max sees it, all gray and black and white, sometimes I relate to it because, you know, sometimes I just want to see black and white. Like, everyone else sees a lot of color. They'd rather have a lot of color, but, you know, I'm content with just any color. I don't really care what color it is. I don't care about a lot of things. Like, I hate to say I see the world logically, because that makes me sound like a smart ass. But that's how Asperger's is often described, and, you know, when I like to think about myself, I like to think of myself as thinking logically. Obviously, I think illogically too. I'm not a god. I'm not even that great as a person. But, you know, sometimes it does feel like that. Why do people mow their lawns? Unless it's like 12 feet tall. I don't know. I don't think it looks much better when it's cut short than it is long. Like, I would just let it grow for a long time. Why do people hang paintings on their walls? I don't know. I don't think it looks better. When I'm older, I often joke that I'm going to live in a sewer because I don't care how it looks. I just care if there's a place to sleep. But, you know, if I do that, if I live in a house with like no decorations, they call you a serial killer. And, you know, I'm trying to not be a red flag, as we all hopefully are. So I guess I kind of have to put paintings on the walls and stuff, you know, get decorations, but, you know, it won't be for me, it will be for everyone else, because I really could not give a fuck. Pardon my language, by the way. It's just a topic I'm not used to talking about. I guess it's more about myself than I'm used to. Anyway, my Asperger's or ASD, mostly about touch, but affects me psychologically too. The main thing with my autism / OCD is, at least when I was younger, if something gets touched by something I don't like, I can't touch that object anymore. It's kind of hard to describe it, but some objects I just will not touch. And I call those objects ruined. And if that ruined object touches another object, both objects are now ruined, and I cannot touch either of them. If I'm very lucky, it will only be part of that object that's ruined. I can touch everything else, but except one part. But unfortunately, especially when I was younger, every part of it used to get ruined. Nowadays, it's not too much of a problem. Usually I just suck it up and do it anyway. Touch it. What's the worst that can happen? But when I was younger, it used to affect me a lot. School clothes, couldn't touch actual clothes or anything really. I felt very uncomfortable with it. What else is there? Basically just school stuff, some toys. If there was dirt on it, usually it would be ruined. If there's a corner of a room, if it's on that windowsill, anything goes on that windowsill and I will not touch it anymore. I don't touch the windowsill. I don't go near the windowsill because I'll get ruined. And oh yeah, I can get ruined. It affects my body too. I have two hands. Shocking, I know. I think we're born with them. My right hand is for whatever I want to touch. My left hand is for ruined objects mostly. If I have to touch a ruined object, it's always going to be my left hand. My right hand is much more for stuff I'm comfortable with touching. Sometimes I don't have a choice. I have to touch it with both hands, or my left hand's busy with something, so it is what it is. For the longest time, my belly, you can't really see my body with my onesie on, but you know what I mean. My belly, my stomach, the soles of my feet, what else? Most of this arm, my left arm, all ruined by stupid things. My feet were ruined when I stepped on a girl's sandals at a birthday party, barefoot. My arm was ruined by a woman wearing clothes I felt were ruined, rubbing into me by accident. When I was wearing a short sleeve, my stomach was caused by my dad jokingly whipping me with his wife's shirt, panties, underwear. I don't know what it was, honestly. He hit me with his wife's clothes, let's just say. He hit me with something on the belly. It didn't hurt. It was a joke. If I was a normal kid, it wouldn't have bothered me. But it does bother me because I'm autistic. Well, it did bother me. And for the next 4 or 5 years, I could not touch my stomach, my belly, whatever you want to call it. Nowadays, I'm pretty okay with touching that stuff. You try to avoid some things. If an object is not ruined, I try to avoid using my left hand at all costs. I'll always try to use my right hand, even if it needs two hands, but it is what it is. But that brings me to my father. My father is a father, but not for this generation. He would have been great 70 years ago when, life wasn't about comfort as much. It was more about getting a good career, getting a wife or a husband, and getting kids and retire. That's what life was more about. Nowadays, there's a lot more comfort in it, which, he isn't very good at understanding. He doesn't do comfort very much. But he is a father, at least to a son who is technically special ed. When I was younger, my autism was much worse, by the way. I could have meltdowns. Not really meltdowns, but I'd get very upset. I could cry very often about it. But my father was, I often like to say, or at least I genuinely do think he forgets I have autism. And although it doesn't matter so much anymore because my autism is so much less a part of my life, I'm much closer to saying I've conquered my autism. The only real problem with my autism is socially. That's what it affects mostly. But when I was younger, it was very severe. It was something that needed to be taken care of with more respect. My father never showed me the respect it needed. He would often forget, or at least didn't seem to understand my autism. Not long ago, he sent me a video, a TikTok video, because he has that for some reason. And in that video, it was about autism and what autism is like. And I watched that entire video, and not a single thing said in the video matched what I am. And whatever point he was trying to say that maybe he cares about me and my autism, it completely did the opposite because he really doesn't understand me. At least he doesn't understand my specialness, you know. And a parent is never going to understand their kid 100%, maybe even 80, 70%. But if you can't understand my special needs after 17 years of me being your child, I don't care anymore. When I was younger, around 9 years old or so, about 9, I went into my first depressive episode. And I used to blame my ASD for it. But nowadays, very recently, I've realized that it's not my ASD, it's my father's fault. Well, fault. I don't want to sound like I'm blaming him fully, but I really do think it's his doing that caused me to be the way I am, and maybe not in a good way. My first depressive episode lasted years. I got therapy, but that therapy didn't do anything because I was too young to care. I didn't want to put in work for improving myself. I didn't shower back then. I didn't do hair. I didn't look after myself. All I did was game and play outside in the countryside. You think I cared how I was? I was sad and I was content with that. Nowadays it's different. I do shower, I swear. I shower very often nowadays, but my first depressive episode was because of my ASD and my father feeling, I never realized at the time, but my father's almost neglectfulness of my special needs is pretty much entirely what caused it to be like that. Because my mother, the angel she is, took very good care of me, and she still does. Spoils me rotten, as they say. She is always thinking about my ASD. She has a partner now, whom they may as well be married, and he thinks about my ASD. And despite how much I regret my decisions, I have been very rude to him in the past. But I don't talk to him at all either, but he isn't even the same race as me. Indian, but I'm Irish, so is my mother, but I feel he understands my autism much more than my father ever could. Because he's a man. My surrogate father is a real man. He treats me how a son should be treated if they have special needs. I want to tell him that one day. Because I do appreciate how kind he's been to me, despite my rudeness. Anyway, my mother's side, her and her boyfriend, her partner, they treat me with so much respect. I owe them so much. My father, however, shows me absolutely none. I don't think I can't remember anything he's ever done to respect my special needs. And it's not like I don't want to give him a good lie here. Like, I would love to say he tried very hard, at least at one point, to say he has tried this to make me feel better, but he doesn't. He doesn't do that. He has never done that, really. At least nothing that comes to mind. Maybe he has before. I'm sure it's happened at least once or twice, probably hundreds of times by now, that he has tried to accommodate my special needs. But if I can't feel the impact of it, then it doesn't matter. You're not respecting me. You're not respecting what I am, which, I'm not happy about being special. It's a curse, really. I'm different. But You gotta treat different people differently. That's how the world works. But if you're not willing to do that, then don't be my father. I'd rather call my surrogate stepfather my my actual father because he treats me with respect. I'd rather talk to him about most topics because he's such a chill guy. He understands me better than my father does. He's just a man. He's just a guy. A guy I actually enjoy being around. My brother acts more like a father. I don't think my brother knows anything really about my autism. Or anything about me really. We're not very close, but I'd much rather call him a father. Yeah, him and I shared different experiences, obviously, because he's not on the spectrum. But he needed therapy when he was no longer around my father. Because my father's way of being a father is not good. There is something that every father needs to do for their child, especially their son, and that is discipline. Discipline is very important. It stops addiction, tells us when to stop. But my father never taught discipline. He only taught me fear. He only taught my brother fear. And there is a very fine line between discipline and fear. You don't yell at your son, your special ed 10-year-old son, for not being able to learn to tie his shoes. You don't get mad at him for that. Unless you want him to be afraid of you. I'm not afraid of him anymore. Because I'm not afraid of people who are like that. But younger me was very afraid. Speak up. Say anything about him. I would talk to my mother. I would talk to my friend. But at the end of the day, if I can tell them as much as I want, but if I can never tell him because I'm too afraid he's going to get mad at me, then what's the point? Things are never going to change. In recent times, years, mostly this year, I've talked back more than I ever have in my entire life. And it's all for nothing. Because nothing's going to change. There is an indication that you failed as a parent when your son of 17 years had a dream about screaming at you about how much they despise what you have done to them, and they want that to happen in real life. I want to scream at him. I want to shout. I haven't screamed or shouted at anyone in almost a decade. Back when I had anger issues, I was more likely to do it. I don't think I have anger issues anymore, but it's your call. I haven't screamed or shouted at anyone in so long, and I never want to, except if it's him. If he pushes me one more time, if he ever says anything about my autism, if he says anything that he knows me better than a lot of other people, then I will scream, I will shout, I will let out pent-up rage of 17 years worth of trauma buildup because I fucking hate my life sometimes because of him. I could be so different. I could be talking with people if I wasn't so fucking emotionally stunted, if he taught me discipline instead of fear. Do you know how hard it is to make friends when you're addicted to stuff? It's hard. It's very hard. It's very hard when you're the weird kid who goes around doing this, thinking they're a velociraptor because your father, or your mother to be fair, but especially your father, won't tell you you're acting weird. They won't punish you because you deserve it. They'll punish you because you're not doing what they want you to do. You're not being the example they want you to be. I hold no grudges against almost anyone, but I hold a grudge, especially in my heart, for my father. Because although I can only blame him so much for me ending up a failure as I am, I will blame him for a lot of it. And even if I can't blame him for me ending up this way. I will blame him for all my sadness. Because my life is almost perfect. It would have been so perfect if I didn't have the father I have now. If he treated me with any respect when I was younger, I would be so different. I wouldn't be like this. I wouldn't be who I am. And that's probably would have been a better thing. I'm not proud of myself. At least not now. When I can barely talk to a woman or even a man for that point. When I go to school, I'm alone the whole day. When I'm trying to do things for my own betterment. When I want to be better for other people. And I'm thinking, Jesus, he's taught me nothing. Who taught me manners? Who taught me to say thank you and you're welcome and please? Oh, that's right, it's me. I taught myself that because he didn't. He taught me fear. He didn't teach me anything. Who taught myself how to tie shoes? I looked up a video on YouTube. A YouTube Kids video. Made for people who haven't even left kindergarten. People who might still be in kindergarten. Maybe even before kindergarten. I had to watch a video made for babies to tie my shoes. But why? 16 years old, I had to learn to tie my shoes by myself with a video made for babies because my father never taught me how. Oh wait, he did teach me how. How to teach me how to be afraid of him. I wouldn't tie my shoe properly. I'd tie a knot by accident. Get ticked with me and shout at me and get mad at me. Then there's tension for the rest of the day. And suddenly I hold a grudge against you. My father recently asked me, well, not so much asked, but told me that when my brother got his driver's license, he drove off and never came back. And he hoped I wouldn't do the same. He asked me if I would. He asked me, you'll stay, right? And I went, because I'm not answering that. Because my answer is no, I'm gonna leave and I'm never coming back. Because I do not like you. You might be my father. You might have raised me. You might have kept me alive. But if you had left and never came back, and I had stayed with my mother all my life, I think I would have been something better. Maybe I'd have something to show for myself. Maybe I wouldn't be a complete failure. Maybe I'd be a bit more happy with myself. Maybe I wouldn't be depressed for half my fucking life. You know how hard it is to be normal when you're autistic and depressed at 9 years old? Up until like 13 at least? And that's really not really depression. It's more like my depression changed from one thing to a different thing. It's like it's so hard sometimes. It's so hard to explain your life when no one else sees through your eyes. Hard to explain something when no one felt what you felt. It's so hard, especially when you have a condition that no one else has. Because autism spectrum disorder is different for every single person who has it. There is no one like me. Maybe we have the same brain functions, but no one's the same. I think differently from every single person in the world. Do you know how disheartening that is? Sure, people will think similar to me. I'll think similarly to them. I'm sure there's someone out there in the world who's just like me. But I'll be thinking slightly different. From every person I meet, I'll be thinking differently. And that's no one's fault. That's just bad luck. But anyway, that's just a little rant about my father. I would have talked a bit more, but I can see my 39 minutes, 45 seconds out of 41 minutes, 58 seconds, so I have to cut this quickly. I'll see if I can make another video, but you know, it is what it is. So, I hope you don't take me too seriously. My troubles are my troubles, and I'll get through. If you were worried at all, by the way, I'll be fine. I will always be fine. I promised myself I would be, I promised everyone else I would be, and I promise you I will be. Because I want to live, I'm happy with life, and I want to be successful, despite my flaws. And I will work hard as I can, to achieve that. Flaws or not, maybe I can work through the flaws. But that's just life. Thank you for watching. Make another video soon. Good night. Have a good day.